And what would be your advice for parents, which you must come across from time to time, where a disclosure is a trigger for them, for past hurt or abuse?
We come across that a lot. We did a straw poll a few years back at Start, and I think it was 100%. And that does not mean that if you've had sexual harm yourself, then you're more likely to have a child to be harmed. Although there can be some increased risks, in terms of potentially the value you might place on yourself and the relationships that you might have some blind spots about. But that is, again, not to say that people have kind of caused this, but just that there can be that vulnerability. So we certainly have parents who have had their own histories and worked very hard to keep their young ones safe, and have found themselves in the situation where their young one's been hurt. And maybe in a family situation where the person that harmed them has now hurt their child, or it could be a whole lot of different dynamics. And again, how long is a piece of string? Some parents take that and go, right, what am I going to make sure my child gets the support that I never got, and are in there, boots and all. Sometimes too much, because it's kind of like almost I'm needing my child to get the support. And in fact, the child's going, no, I just want to be 8, leave me alone. So again, it can be a pacing issue with regard to that. Other parents can be like, actually, I don't want to even touch this with a barge pole. This hurts too much. And kids pick up on the fact that they can't talk about it. They really pick up on the idea that if mum's skin's crawling, and what I'm talking about is making mum's skin crawling, even though she might be smiling and saying, you can tell me anything. And that's not mum's fault. That's about maybe mum's or dad's, trauma history. So again, trying to be transparent and say, you don't have to tell the child your trauma. But what you can say is, hey, it's so important you're talking about this stuff, and I'm getting help so I can listen and I can be here for you. But maybe there are things that it's best to talk to Sam about, and I can kind of come with you to talk to Sam about those things. So it doesn't mean you have to be amazingly calm when you hear this stuff. But you can make sure that your child has the message that this stuff is important to talk about, and also getting your own support. So if you are finding yourself being triggered, then hook back into your own resources and supports.
Yeah, I'd really emphasise that point, because certainly in my experience, I might be working with a young person, but I'm never working just with a young person. I'm working with the whole family. And often, as Catherine said, the parent who's bringing the child along has had their own childhood experience of sexual abuse, and they may not have had any support, and this is incredibly triggering. It takes them back to the age that they were when they were sexually harmed, which may coincide with about the same age as their child, strangely enough. And yes, I'd completely agree, and I would say, there's support out there for you too, to the parent. You're absolutely entitled to your own support whenever, it doesn't matter how long ago this happened to you, because again, the most important thing, for your child, what they need most is for you to be well, to support them, them on this journey, and they will absolutely pick up if this stuff is too scary to talk to mum about, because I get this reaction from mum that she'll just fall apart if I talk about it. So yeah, absolutely, parents, if this has happened to you, you just absolutely deserve your own support.
So for parents experiencing that trigger of their own trauma, where would you suggest they go for support?
Well, we're lucky enough to have an ACC system that, for some quirk of fate, decided many years ago that they were going to support people who had experienced sexualised harm. So if you're a New Zealand citizen and you have experienced sexual violence, or you're overseas and on holiday and something happens, or you're an overseas person who happens to have something happen to you when you're in New Zealand, you're eligible for free support. And it's lifelong support if you get cover. And cover is received if there has been clinically significant or kind of harm resulting from that experience. And so if you want to know more about it, the ACC website, is pretty user-friendly, or it's getting more user-friendly. And certainly agencies like ours, like Start, you can ring up and talk to our social workers and find out all about it. We also have social work support, as do other agencies. That means that if you're wanting to just say, I've seen something, I've heard something, I'm struggling with something, you don't have to have anything to do with START. But there is support there that you just get on the phone or come in and have a consult and help problem solve next steps together, because sometimes we can feel really isolated around this stuff. So yes, for the child, for the adult, for the grandparent, there is free support out there, and you don't need to have had police involvement or anything like that. Yeah.